Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga of India by Annie Besant and narrated by Marlon Braccia. Theosophical Classics. In the first place, allow me to explain why I've chosen the subject for discussion. I have lived in India for 12 years. I have made a fairly thorough study of Indian psychology. I thought it might be useful to speak about these matters, of which I have made some knowledge, and which are little studied by the Western world. There exists in India a psychological science, the origin of which dates back thousands of years. It is known that India possesses a very ancient literature. Now everywhere in that literature we find traces of psychology, and also the exposition of an ancient psychology in its practical and not merely its theoretical aspect. Since this science has been put into practice for so long a period, is it not reasonable to conclude that there may be in these ideas, these theories, based on repeated experiments, something which may prove useful to modern psychology? This psychological science of the East is called yoga, a word signifying to bind, to unite. When we speak of yoga, we express the idea of forming a union, a binding. Of binding what? Consciousness itself, by realizing the union of the separate consciousnesses of men with the universal consciousness. Yoga includes all the practical methods by which this union may be attained. Yoga is thus a science which may be both studied and practiced. It is practiced in order to obtain a complete union with the ordinary individual consciousness of man and the superconsciousness by rising from plane to plane until at last this union is completely attained. Then one is said to be free. In order to understand this science and also give the experiments which I wish to explain, allow me to give you a short account of the fundamental ideas on which these experiments are based. It is probable that you will not accept these ideas, but you may nevertheless understand them as theories. Theory concerning man, and more particularly, theory concerning the consciousness of man. The theory, then, must be understood, first of all, in order to be able to explain the aim. Otherwise, the experiments of the East will always remain unintelligible to the Western minds. If you will accept these theories for a moment, you will understand the ensemble of these experiments, and you may perhaps deduce for yourselves conclusions from them which will afford clues with regard to other experiments. Herein lies the value for Western minds, so it seems to me, of a knowledge of science of the East. The first preposition is that consciousness is one and universal. Everywhere beneath appearances, behind phenomena, a consciousness is revealed. Under the diversity of forms persists the unity of consciousness. A unique energy, a unique force, is everywhere in the universe. This theory may be regarded as closely related to the Western conception of one single energy, which all the forces are but the manifestations, the example. But in India, this energy is always regarded as conscious. That is to say, no division is made between consciousness, life, and energy. These are but three words denoting the same essence, but which establish also a distinction between the manifestations of this essence. A distinction which is useful to remember when experiments are being made. But it must be recognized that this energy is one and is conscious, is in fact consciousness itself. The second preposition is that this energy, this consciousness, I prefer the word consciousness, manifests itself in the universe through the different forms of matter. The manifestations of consciousness depend on those forms by which it is conditioned. The differences which are perceived are simply differences of form and not differences of consciousness. Consciousness is always present, but it cannot express itself in a complete manner in a restricted form. The evolution of form depends on this manifestation of consciousness, and when we place side by side consciousness and form, energy and matter. It is consciousness which directs, which is sovereign, which disposes of matter, and each functioning of consciousness creates a form for its revelation. When I use the word creates, I do not mean creation out of nothing. I mean that consciousness disposes of matter so as to express itself, that all the powers reside in consciousness, but that in order to reveal, to manifest its powers, it is absolutely necessary to find the vehicle of consciousness. That is to say, to organize the material by which it can express itself. I may on this point quote a very ancient line of an Upanishad, the Chandogya. The self, that is to say consciousness, desires to see. The eye appeared. It desired to hear. The ear made its appearance. It desired to think. Intelligence was there. That is to say, the efforts of consciousness are shown in obedient matter, directed by that energy which incarnates itself in forms. You will find the same idea in the physical universe, in the transformations of electricity. You may make different instruments to enable the energy called electricity manifest. The energy is ever the same. It's only the manifestation that varies. According to the instrument you provide, you can obtain light, sound, heat, chemical dissociations, all these being merely manifestations of electricity. Manifestations which are possible because you have provided instruments in which suitable conditions for each kind of manifestation. But the instrument remains inert without electricity. It conditions the form. It does not produce the energy.